quarters.
Or you just thought there'd be more room here. I don't know.
Stop this voyage.
Don't hit my cheese, please.
Whatever you do, don't hit the caffeine.
Remember, we haven't had lunch. We're a little grumpy.
Neither have we. So we're all actually...
Norma, do you need this
We're
closer?
gonna make a spot for Pam to sit in here too, sorry.
Very good.
That's for the microphone.
Yeah, TJ.
The only way they could make me look worse is put me next to Pam. Oh yeah. Which one is it?
Oh, it's on. Okay, I'm set. Thank you.
You know, after the magnificent speech that was given by Representative Betancourt to close this debate, I'd be hard-pressed to choose words that would be adequate to describe the historic achievement in the New Hampshire House this past 2 days. You know, the fact that for the first time in a generation, and perhaps the first time ever in terms of its magnitude, that we've been able to address a severe fiscal crisis without turning to more spending and more downshifting and more borrowing, and indeed have been able to take government back to the point that we are living within our means if this budget goes forward and is adopted by the Senate, is a historic achievement. And again, I think Representative Betancourt in his remarks captured it very, very well, and also appropriately reached out and thanked the members of the Finance Committee and the Ways and Means Committee for the magnificent work they had done. I went to many of these individuals when I knew I was going to become Speaker in November, and said, you know, I want to work with you as part of the finance team, and told them about the impossible task I was going to get them. And I was assured to myself that at some point they're going to come to me and say, it can't be done. And they did it, and they did it with humanity and with finesse and with a great deal of hard work, and I really do want to congratulate them for that.
Mr. Speaker, you held the line, you know, throughout this whole process. How difficult was it as a person to do so when you're hearing the repeated cries from not just the unions, but, you know, the teachers, the disabled?
You know, those are the loud voices, and the voices that speak to the media. The voices that speak to me are taxpayers that I met this past fall that said, it's too much, we can't do any more. The voices that spoke to me are the ones who spoke to me over the last 4 years and said, what is going wrong with a government that has to increase fees and taxes or enact new fees and taxes in excess of 100 in 4 years? The voices that spoke to me talked about the long-term trends and said that this government will eventually, as Representative Valancourt said, topple. We can't keep this up. At some point, it had to come to an end. This is the time it came to an end. So I'm proud to be part of a team of very dedicated and talented people who are able to say to the citizens of New Hampshire, we know it had to come to an end, and it comes to an end now.
Mr. Speaker, I'm John Gregg at the Valley News.
Hey, John, I've talked to you.
Yes. Hey. Is the leadership hopeful that that the Senate, in fact, will find improved revenue estimates and can restore some of this?
We're all hopeful that there's going to be improved revenue estimates, because we need more money in our rainy day fund, and we need further tax relief for the people of New Hampshire. I believe that the Senate's going to work with us in using the realistic revenue projections that we have to construct the budget around it. We're going to leave that to others to get there.
John, just very quickly, and also nice to see you in person. You know, when Steve put together, in his committee, put together the revenue estimates, which were to become the foundation of this budget, a lot of people criticized them as being overly pessimistic. But to your question, I talked yesterday with a very concerned senator who said, boy, the House revenue estimates are looking to be awfully accurate. So I know that the Senate certainly is hoping that revenue estimates will improve, but initial signs are troubling.
But you said rainy day fund and tax cuts. But if they do improve, would you go along with restoring some to human service?
I think if you look at the budget resolution that we passed at the end of February, our commitment was to ensure the long-term economic health of this state, and we know the way we're going to do that is by ensuring that our bond rating remains solid as we look forward to the next couple of years We know that municipal and state bonds are going to be under challenge. We know that there's a number of states out there who are going to run up against some fiscal crisis. It's going to be hard for all states to borrow. It's only the states that have great bond ratings that are going to be favored in the marketplace. We want New Hampshire to be one of those states. We know, too, that the best welfare for the people of New Hampshire is a private sector job, and we have to return those jobs to New Hampshire. You saw at play, if you watched the debate over the last couple of days, a fundamental difference in understanding. On one side of the aisle, there were those who say we bring jobs to New Hampshire by taxing people and then hiring people. And the other side, and this is the side that we represent, we say we bring jobs to New Hampshire by freeing up money for investment and leaving people with their money so that they can start businesses and small businesses can hire employees. That's sustainable. We want to do what's best in the long term.
Mr. Speaker, and you're aware that Senate President Peter Bragdon maintains even today that the House budget is dead on arrival when it gets there, specifically because of Mr. Kirk's amendment related to collective bargaining.
Oh, I bet you Senator Bragdon wouldn't use those words because I've talked with him and
all right, I'll tell you exactly what he did say. He said there isn't one Republican senator that he's spoken with that will vote for this budget as long as that provision is in it.
And good. We will work with them. There'll be a committee of conference. We're going to take the best parts of our budgets and work to make sure that we have a good budget overall. And we do have to address the issues that are represented in Representative Kirk's amendment. It's an innovative approach to ensuring sustainable state government in the long term, because we know that state employees and other public employees' salaries and benefits can't grow the way they're going. They've gone to the point that they are unsustainable. That is a great approach that he's come up with, and Representative Bragdon and I look forward, I'm sure, to working together. I know I do. And coming up with a final solution.
What do you say regarding, go ahead. Regarding the collective bargaining amendment, when people say this is worse than Wisconsin and in terms of the effects of this, what's your response and what do you want people to know about that?
Oh, this has been a debate filled with hyperbole, and I think that's just a little bit more of it. Or maybe others have it, but I look at that and I don't think that's true at all.
And
what it is saying that all the tools of negotiation remain, the union remains in place, the desire on the part of the public employer to deal with one unit to set the terms for a group of employees, all those incentives remain the same. What doesn't remain the same is a negotiating process where the union can come in and say, we're still getting our step increases, we're still getting our benefits, we're still getting all the work conditions maintained according to a judicial decision that came down. What more are you going to give us? We don't negotiate unless you tell us what more. And that isn't sustainable in the long term. So this is a way of evening the negotiating field and making sure that the taxpayers are there effectively represented at the table so that the question can be asked, what is a good, sustainable contract for employees that can be afforded by the people who are going to pay them?
And regarding today's budget, when people call it heartless, what's your response?
Again, more hyperbole. You know, heartlessness is taking money from the economy in a way that produces an ongoing downward spiral. That's heartless. Heartless is taking money out of the economy and small businesses where they can't grow jobs. That's heartless. There's obviously going to be a dislocation and a great deal of discomfort when you say to people, we have to orient you to being citizens of this government and not clients of this government. And there's a difference in philosophy there.
I wanted to add something to that, and I thought I made the point in my speech on the floor. It is incredibly unfortunate, the breakdown in decorum, in the political hyperbole, and the outrageousness of it that we've seen in this budget. Josh's question a moment ago underscored a very, very important point. This is the second step in a four-step process. Some of you asked me when the governor gave his speech on the 15th whether or not the governor's budget was dead on arrival when it reached the House. And I maintained, and I think we all maintained, that it was an important first step. The important first step in this four-step process. We have taken step number 2. The Senate will have their opportunity, and then we will come together and hash out our differences. And I think that for some of these claims of heartlessness and immoral and evil that we have been hearing is a real shame.
Obviously, the Senate's going to come up with something that's different than what the House has done. Are there any bottom lines that you won't compromise on and that the House won't cede position on?
Well, certainly one of the bottom lines is that we want to do what's best for the people of New Hampshire. We also know that we have to live within our revenues. There cannot be tax increases. There cannot be fee increases. There can't be any new taxes and fees. We're not going to downshift to the towns and the cities. That's clear. And with those rules in place and realistic revenue estimates, as we know we have, I think as you hear has been acknowledged by key players on the Senate side, we're going to work with them to make sure that we're making the right choices as to where spending would be. You know, Representative Weiler and Representative Kirk and all their colleagues on the Finance Committee will be the first to admit that you sit there and you say, well, I think this is an important, appropriate rather, amount of funding for this agency and another amount for another agency. But they were always willing to listen, and they remain willing to listen. But what we're not willing to do is to move towards taxing and downshifting and using unrealistic revenues. We're not going to borrow operating costs or turn to any of the gimmickry that's been used in the past.
And let's define what listening is, as I said. I sat down, I asked Ken to approximate how much time the Finance Committee between the three divisions took in gathering information from department heads, gathering information from the public. It came out to approximately 360 hours of deliberation from the point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, from the point that the governor gave his budget address.
Even before that.
And even before that. So the claim that this process was done recklessly or was done without forethought is absolutely baseless.
Thank you.
All right.
Great. Thanks for coming in.
Can you slide it?